Hello and thanks for joining me for Putting It Bluntly. My name's Danny and today we're going to be looking at WWE SummerSlam 2021. First up we've got Big E versus Baron Corbin on the kickoff show. Baron Corbin's been playing a really good role of just being homeless, penniless. His shirt's been getting dirtier each week. He's been losing buttons as it goes and he obviously can't replace them. He stole Big E's Money in the Bank contract and Big E's just found him, kicked the crap out of him, hit him with a big ending and that was it. Baron Corbin's really committed to this role though, so it's nice to see him just having the piss taken out of him really, considering he's just played the abhorrent, obnoxious prick for the last however many years. The first match on the main card was Randy Orton and Matt Riddle against AJ Styles and Omos for the Raw Tag Team Championship. It's quite a good match, got the crowd warmed up. We saw RK Bro win the tag belts. Got quite good chemistry of Orton and Riddle, to be fair. Riddle's obviously the young little stoner. Randy Orton remembers what he was like when he first joined the company. He used to get his hand slapped if he ever, well, not too bad, but he used to get told off briefly if he ever got caught smoking weed. But now he just chuckles at Riddle, just falling over himself and just being a bit of a lad. Yeah, I'm not going to go through all the adverts like I used to do with these, because we used to just get one advert between each match, and I could make a little joke, whatever. But now it's just 15 minutes of fucking commercials. It's a right piss take. This next match was a bit of a piss take and a time waste with Alexa Bliss against Eva Marie. Eva Marie's bodyguard Dewdrop's been hypnotised by Alexa Bliss's doll, Lily, and she's now somewhat controlling of her, or she just doesn't care about Eva Marie anymore, I'm not quite sure. Eva Marie at one point got hold of the doll and started slapping it about, which caused Alexa Bliss to lose a rag and just went mental, and eventually won, and then Dewdrop just didn't care, and she was ignoring Eva Marie, and they seemed to have fallen apart already, which didn't last long. Next up we have a hard-hitting match between Sheamus and Damien Priest for the United States Championship. Sheamus has recently broken his nose and he's wearing one of those protective masks, which Priest ripped off at one point, but I've mentioned before about Priest, especially with the Royal Rumble, that's where it was most evident. He's an older lad, he's been wrestling for a while now, but there's some things he's just not quite getting properly, and if he hasn't learnt them by now, he should really stop. One thing is his senton suicide dive thing over the top. He runs at the rope top speed, stops himself so he can jump onto the second, so then he can spring and get the height, which then causes him to land there, which is nowhere near his opponent. His heels whip the fuck out of his opponent's face. He lands on his ass, he lands and hurts his back. He hurt his back in this match, and it's silly. If you can't do it, don't bloody do it. And there's quite a few other things as well. I get why people like him, he's got a good look, he sounds cool, his music's kick-ass, but if he ain't trained properly and he's going to hurt himself or somebody else, then we just need to put the brakes on. A bit like Keith Lee. Now I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy with me saying that because they love Keith Lee and he's entertaining to an extent, but once he gets through his list of shit, there's not really that much else to do. You don't see him really thinking of anything on the fly and improvising. It's all just checking off just a list of shit to get in. Sorry. Anyway, Priest won once he hit the Reckoning on Sheamus, and it was an alright match. Yeah, it's meant to be stiff, it's a Sheamus match. They're just like battering the fuck out of people and himself. And now this feud's just been well overdone. The Mysterios and the Usos. I've said before, Dominic shouldn't be doing some of the moves Rey can do, because Dominic can't do them, so maybe get a different moveset and be slightly different than your dad, rather than just trying to be a tall version. And the Usos, well, just still disappointed. Drunky and Jay just retained. Let's reward bad behaviour. Speaking of bad behaviour, Rick Boogs, you are ear rape. The only decent thing about this whole thing, about the whole Jack Black 20 years later, however long it's been now, is the fact that Pat McAfee gets off on it, which makes Michael Cole laugh and feel a bit awkward and not know what to do. That's quite funny. Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair now. Oh, no, wait, that's been changed. It's now going to be, nope, not you either, Carmella. It's Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Still not actually found out what's wrong with Sasha, why she hasn't been involved, but people did know that she wasn't going to be there before, and they advertised it, even in the promo package before the match, and they didn't say anything until Bianca was actually in the ring waiting for her opponent, which, if the main reason you were there was to see Sasha Banks, or she's just one of your favourites in general, you should feel pretty robbed about that. I'm very happy. Anyway, Becky Lynch, in about 3 seconds, well no, she shook her hand, smacked her in the face, hit her with a rock bottom, and she became the champ again, which just shocked everyone, including Bianca Belair. Ooh, I thought we'd moved on from Crown Jewel, but I suppose Vince is still Vince, and he loves making money, so we don't care about things like what the hosts get up to. Let's just put on some nostalgia in a giant arena and pretend like everything's hunky-dory. Speaking of everything being hunky-dory, I'm not too happy about Drew McIntyre being in the piss break match, because that's all this was, sadly, against Jinder Mahal. Jin didn't have his henchman, and eventually Drew just hit the Claymore and killed him. After the match, Jinder's henchman decided to try and sneak up on Drew, but he swung his big sword around, not very convincingly. I didn't for a moment think he was actually trying to connect with anybody. But Vince likes to see his sword being swung around on TV, especially by a big meathead. Next up, we've got the Raw Women's Championship between Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley and Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross is still doing this stupid superhero thing, which is just a reinvention of Eugene, of Rosie when he was the superhero in training. It's also a bit of Otis from last year when we were laughing at him, not with him, and they're the last person that's actually in on the joke. It's a bit sad to see, because Nikki was really good when she had her own look, body shape, and style, but then they told her that's not what you need to lose a bit of weight and be like everybody else. She lost a bit of weight, looked like everybody else, that wasn't enough, and now you've got dressed up like a twat. Obviously we knew where this was going to go. Charlotte Flair was involved in the match, and AEW both have her husband, and future husband, and her father soon to be arriving, so WWE need to do everything they can to sweeten the deal to keep Charlotte around. I was momentarily surprised that Charlotte actually used the figure 4/figure 8 in a triple threat match in this, because the last time I saw her do it, someone sneaked in and pinned her, and she had no way of kicking out because her legs were tied up. So that was pretty fortunate that didn't happen. It's a shame to see Nikki Cross she's lost her belt now. I don't know what's going to happen with her. The title picture's probably going to revolve around Charlotte and Rhea Ripley again. This next match is a clash between two quite very similar personalities. Edge has even said that on the build-up to it, saying that Seth's just like a modern-day version or a clone or a light edition of Edge, which caused Seth to threaten to enter Edge's career again. This made Edge come down to the Brood's theme song, to reach that deeper, darker place within him. It looks really nice, the jacket looks cool, his sunglasses and the fire looked really good, but he couldn't help himself, and halfway down the ramp he stopped and let the Alter-Bridge version kick in, and Edge just threw the horns and started dancing and singing along and getting in the crowd's faces. And everything he'd said about needing to go to a dark place was just thrown straight out the window because he couldn't. It'd kind of be like The Undertaker trying to scare people by coming down to his usual 30-minute entrance, but instead, halfway down, he just throws his jacket off and just starts dancing to Rollin' by Limp Bizkit. They work separate from themselves, but don't mix them together, it just seems a bit daft. Anyway, and by the end of the match, Edge made Seth tap out. He tried to get him in the crippler crossface a few times. Seth would just wriggle out, but then Edge just grabbed Seth by the hair, just slammed his head into the mat repeatedly until he slapped that chin lock on and got into tap. I'm suspecting they're going to continue this feud a little bit longer because Seth didn't look happy. I wasn't happy with this bit, the crowd weren't happy with this bit. All three of these guys are decent A few comebacks. He kept trying to get sneaky little roll-ups just to prove to Roman all he needs is 3 seconds. Roman Reigns just dominated for the majority of this. Now, I just want to take a quick side note to say, although I do rip the absolute shit out of AEW referees on a regular basis, this referee in WWE, for years I've said how terrible he is. He's just like a little crying man baby, and he's trying to convince Roman Reigns here to get back in the ring. Roman isn't listening. Nobody would listen. My cats wouldn't listen to this guy. Anyway, Roman Reigns thinks he's The Rock, and he kept looking at the camera while beating down John Cena and giving all the smack talk. Now, I've really enjoyed Roman Reigns this past year. He's really good as a heel, with or without Heyman, and with or without the Usos. But the more he says, the more he exposes himself, and the closer he gets to suffering succotash territory. He doesn't need to do this. He just needs to beat people up and be silent and speak with his body and with his actions, not with his bloody big gob. They exchanged signature moves for a while. Reigns kicked out of everything that John Cena could give him, but then eventually Cena fell to the spear like everybody else has. And now we're left wondering who's going to take on Roman. And just before the show finished, we got a surprise return. Very, very good effort from Paul Heyman here. He did not know how to react. He just crumbled in the middle of the ring while the crowd went mental. You could even see Pat McAfee in the background there getting really excited. He is the icing on the cake, or the seasoning on the steak in a lot of instances. He's still learning, his Pat, but he's very entertaining while he's doing it, and Michael Cole just doesn't seem as irritating. Anyway, Brock came down to the ring and got in Roman's face, and I'm sure we're to expect these two to clash at some point very, very soon. That was the end of SummerSlam, and that's enough out of me for the time being. Please comment below if you'd like to do so. You can also like and share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow me on Twitter at BluntDamage. You can find me on Twitch, Danny Blunt Damage, although I'm not doing so much on it at the minute, but watch this space. If you'd like to support me, you can also go on Ko-fi at Danny Damage. You can get any other information about me on dannydamage.co.uk, as well as all the other articles that I write. And you can also find me on geeksandgamers.com, writing every Monday and every Thursday.